this isn't just bad for entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs. It's bad for returns. It's bad for the investors who want to receive a return on their investment. This is how companies would benefit if they have people who have a blend of ages, a blend of experience levels, a blend of different skills. That's how you're going to achieve the most successful outcomes. What you need to know is this isn't accidental. This is systematic age discrimination. After all, complaints do not change systemic bias. Data does. So here's my challenge to every VC listening to this. I'm about to show you data that will make every venture capitalist in Silicon Valley very uncomfortable. MIT studied 2.7 million entrepreneurs and found something that will change everything you think about startup success. Spoiler alert, everything that you've been told about startup founders is complete BS. Let me blow your mind with some numbers, okay? The average age of the startup founder of a high-growth company in the United States is 41.9 years old. That is research from MIT Sloan Business School, okay? This is legitimate. So almost 42 years old, not young, not 21, not fresh out of the college dorm, not wearing a hoodie. Middle-aged, okay? Now, when it comes to the top 0.1% of successful founders out there, the average age is, drumroll please, 45 years old. 45. Okay. And when we're talking about successful exits or IPOs, we actually creep upwards to 46.7 years old. And all of this is true even in Silicon Valley-backed firms. The average age of the startup founder is 40.2 years old. Over 40. So even in Silicon Valley-backed VC startups, the average age of the startup founder is 40.2 years old. Yes, you heard it here. It's mind-boggling to me that we have not seen appropriate representation of the startup founder. This is just not the way the world is, and yet we are all led to believe that these startup founders are pretty much to a T, young dudes, mostly white, operating out of their parents' basement or their garage in a hoodie, right? It is not true. These people are actually middle-aged, and nobody's talking about it. Now, this stat is going to blow your mind. A 50-year-old founder is about 1.8 times more likely than a 30-year-old to have a successful startup. 1.8 times more likely. Let me repeat that. A 50-year-old is nearly twice as likely to have a successful outcome as a startup founder than a 30-year-old. So why is it that we are all obsessed with funding the next Sam Altman, the next Sam Bankman-Fried, the next Mark Zuckerberg lookalike? What is the deal here? Now let's talk about what's actually happening in the world of tech hiring, which is of course very related to tech founders and the types of people they bring aboard. And this new data from the EEOC should terrify anybody over the age of 35. All right, even though our population as a whole continues to get older at a very rapid rate, with 1 in 5 individuals going to be over age 55 by 2030, the percentage of over 40-year-olds in the tech industry is declining. That's right, you heard me right. It's declining even though we're getting older every day. Crazy. And while that's all happening, the hiring rate for people under the age of 25 is growing at 9x. What you need to know is this isn't accidental. This is systematic age discrimination. Let me just read to you a few of the job applications that were out there in the tech industry of late. This listing at Speechify asked, how old were you when you started coding? Yeah. Yep. I started coding in the womb. I don't know about you. Really? Really? Why on earth is that at all valuable or reasonable to include in someone's application? Just absolutely nuts. And it gets worse. They ask then, how many years of coding experience do you have? Okay, so you are very clearly trying to find out exactly how old your applicants are. I've also had people reach out to me to tell me that they have seen people do it in other sort of kind of more under the surface sort of ways. So people have said, hey, what was your SAT or ACT score when you applied to college? And if you don't know this, they changed the rating scales and the amounts that you could achieve on these tests so that if you had, say, something like 1400 or below, you were in a specific age bracket, in a specific generation. So by asking this question, you then can tell exactly which generation the applicant is a part of. Now, a refresher, since 1967, it has been illegal to discriminate against someone on the basis of age. That is through the Age Discrimination and Employment Act. And anyone over the age of 40 is protected at the federal level from being discriminated against. In some instances, in some states, in some localities, it actually applies to people over and under 40. So you have additional protections if you live in certain places, like, for example, Colorado, where it is illegal to post a job application that asks for any sort of age identification markers, including like, when did you start coding and how many years have you been doing that, and things like, what's your graduation date from college or high school? Now, here's where it gets really frustrating. You see where this all begins. Now, a lot of tech companies are funded by venture capital firms. They give out money to tech founders to help them build out these companies. And that is where you can see the discrimination up close and personal. Lots of very prominent venture capitalists are out there openly stating, do not hire people over the age of 30. That one was from Keith Rabois of Kozla Ventures at an event with Brian Chesky of Airbnb last year in New York City. This event was called The Art of Hiring, and he was recalling a story wherein Peter Thiel had espoused to him this wisdom, which was essentially don't hire anyone over the age of 30. And Peter Thiel allegedly, according to Keith Rabois' whole recounting of this, said that that was the best advice that anyone gave him in building a tech company. Awesome. By the way, Keith, I believe, was 56 at the time he was telling a whole room full of aspiring founders not to hire anyone over the age of 30. Real nice look. And the reason this is so infuriating is it flies in the face of the actual data, which is supposed to be what these people are moved by. They're supposed to be moved by facts, figures, ones, zeros, data. And they are investing disproportionately in the people who are least likely to succeed when it is their very job to produce returns for their investor. So this is really interesting data. The data shows that founders with 3+ industry years of experience have a 0.26% success rate. So pretty low. When you have no industry experience, that drops even lower to 0.11 success rate. That is a wild statistic. So a lot of these people are founding their first companies when they're getting this fat VC check. And they yet have 0.11% chance of actually succeeding. And yet VCs keep throwing money at 23-year-olds with no proven sort of work experience instead of actually giving it to the 45-year-olds who have a network, have more money, have industry experience and know-how, and can see around corners and help prevent accidents from happening because they've already been through them. This isn't just bad for entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs. It's bad for returns. It's bad for the investors who want to receive a return on their investment. All the LPs who give their money to these venture capital firms are being shortchanged because they are disproportionately funding people who won't have a successful return because of their age bias. So just why is it that older founders tend to be more successful? 2 words: life experience. These people have seen some shit. They've been there, done that. They know what to do and what not to do. They know who to do it with and who not to do it with. They have industry contacts, know-how. They can see around corners. They have all of this experience that they can pair with people across all generations and bring in new perspectives and sort of like the freshest, most industry intelligent information from these colleges and universities that, by the way, churn out graduates of all ages, I should mention. But this is how companies would benefit if they have people who have a blend of ages, a blend of experience levels, a blend of different skills. That's how you're going to achieve the most successful outcomes. This is known. So let's think about this. Industry connections that are built over decades. They have pattern recognitions from previous failures and successes. They have financial stability to weather different storms in the life cycle of a company. There are going to be ups and there are going to be downs, okay? And they also have leadership skills that cannot be taught, that can only be learned on the job. So this is all that older founders bring to the table, and yet they're dismissed. I want to remind you that Steve Jobs himself, the vaunted tech leader that everyone holds up on this mantle of excellence, right? He was 52 years old when he actually created the iPhone, all right? 52 years old, not 22. He came with so much experience and know-how and leadership skills, some of which apparently were kind of rough, but he did this at 52. A lot of people think of a 52-year-old in the tech industry, and they think of a dinosaur, a has-been, someone who can't deliver anything. And yet, one of the greatest people to ever work in the tech industry Steve Jobs was 52 when he brought his biggest and best creation to the world. And if you want more proof that this is getting worse out there, know this. Age discrimination complaints are skyrocketing. That's right. Year over year, the age discrimination complaints received by the EEOC rose by 2,000 instances. So what that tells me is that people are finally speaking up about this injustice in the workplace, but that doesn't mean that change is happening. They're just becoming more aware that this is going on. After all, complaints do not change systemic bias. Data does. And it's going to take time. A lot of the layoffs that are happening right now in this tech downturn that is being discussed as an AI revolution remains to be seen how much of that is actually true and how much of it is a correction for the overhiring during the COVID era. But a lot of these people who are being laid off are over the age of 40. And some of that is due to higher salaries and needing to release those from their payroll. And some of that is probably due to ageism. And they are not one and the same. It's very important to call that out. It is not necessarily ageism if you have older people being pushed out of the workplace. Sometimes it is a cost association instead of anything other than that. With that said, knowledge, expertise, all of that is and institutional knowledge is not weighted appropriately and is so often just completely passed over when these cuts need to be made. But that's neither here nor there. So here's my challenge to every VC listening to this. Your investment strategy is mathematically wrong. You are doing it wrong. The math ain't mathin', and that's what you're supposed to be good at. Older founders have a higher rate of success. Do not discriminate against them. Do not think less of them. In fact, you should proactively seek them. You are quite literally funding failure and ignoring success. That makes no sense, and if I'm your LP, I'm not happy about it. To every hiring manager and recruiter out there, stop asking age-related questions in your application process. It is not only just morally wrong, it is also stupid. You are setting yourself up for a problem, and there's absolutely no reason that someone's age should come into play. If you are asking for this demographic information, especially if you're making it a required field, as so many are, and you don't employ a demographically exact sort of representation of society, you are asking for trouble. And it makes absolutely no sense, and it should be wiped off of your application process. And by the way, we know that things like hungry and digital native just mean young. You're not fooling anybody with those, so just stop. And to everyone over the age of 40 who's listening, your experience is not a liability. It is an asset, and the data proves it. So hold your head high. Your experience truly matters, and you can bring so much to an organization, whether you create it or you're a part of someone else's. Again, the most successful entrepreneurs aren't the people who are ditching college and working out of their parents' garage, okay, in that hoodie. They are middle-aged founders. So there is no time like the present to go for it. It's never too late, and you're not too old to go after what you want. So get to it.